You even donated to her new university to ensure she'd be accepted as a transfer. All perfectly arranged, James said coldly. I did what was necessary for the company, his father muttered. The company, James echoed with a sharp laugh. The same company that's now mine. Gasp swept through the crowd. Oh yes, he continued, turning to the guests. As of last week, I'm the majority shareholder. Father signed over control as an early wedding gift. Ironic, isn't it? He stepped toward me, ignoring Victoria's high-pitched protest. Emma, he said gently, I spent 15 years believing you'd abandoned me, 15 years trying to become the man my father expected. Then I found those documents, and suddenly, everything made sense. I was going to call off the wedding, he added, but then I saw your name on the guest list. Seated in the kitchen, I said dryly. He gave a crooked smile. Victoria always did have a taste for the theatrical. He turned to my sister. The wedding's off. By the way, you might want to check your father's company's books before he tries another merger. Victoria screamed and hurled her bouquet, hitting a champagne tower and sending crystal shattering across the floor. James barely flinched. As my first act as CEO, he announced over the commotion, Anderson Industries is launching a $100 million foundation for educational initiatives in underserved communities. He looked at me. We need a director who understands both education and community organizing. Interested? My mother bolted to her feet. Emma, darling, I always knew you had potential. Save it, I said, cutting her off. I think you've helped enough for one lifetime. I turned to James. That foundation job, does it come with a corner office? He grinned. Only if you'll have dinner with me first. I know this great little coffee shop in Boston. You can't do this, Victoria shrieked. Daddy, do something. But her father was already storming out, phone pressed to his ear, probably speed dialing his accountant. Richard Anderson Sr. rose unsteadily. Son, think carefully about what you're doing. I have, father, for 15 years. James took my hand in his. This company needs a new direction, less greed, more purpose. Emma always said success isn't measured by money, but by how many lives you lift along the way. Victoria erupted again, but her voice faded into the background. All I could see was the small silver ring I'd worn all these years, and the man who had finally come home. You kept it, James said softly, touching the ring. And you came back, I whispered. 6 months later, the Anderson Chin Educational Foundation had already funded 50 community programs. Victoria married a minor European prince, ironically, a passionate socialist. My parents developed a sudden interest in charitable giving, though their invites to family events still seemed to get lost in the mail. Richard Anderson Sr. retired to a quiet villa in Italy. He even sent me a handwritten apology. I framed it next to the Boston Globe article announcing the foundation's launch. As for me and James, we still visit that old coffee shop in Boston. He still drinks his coffee black, no sugar. But now, when we talk about changing the world, we actually do it. The silver ring on my finger finally has a companion, a simple gold band, warm and solid. Its inscription reads, "To my James, who came back to what really matters." Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting it right. I tried to find him, but it was like he'd vanished. No phone number, no email, no trace. Then, a year later, I saw his photo on the cover of Forbes. James Anderson, heir to Anderson Industries, newly engaged to a Manhattan socialite. My heart broke all over again. And now, here he was, staring at me like he'd seen a ghost. My sister, standing beside him in white lace and diamonds, blinked in confusion. Jamie, I whispered, holding out the ring. His face drained of color. Victoria's perfect smile faltered as her brows knitted. James, darling, she said with brittle poise. Do you know my pathetic little sister? But he wasn't looking at her. His eyes had locked on my hand, on the worn silver ring I still wore. The one he gave me 15 years ago, engraved with words no one else had ever seen. To my Emma, who taught me what really matters. Emma, he breathed, and in that one broken word, I heard it all: memory, regret, heartbreak. Victoria's voice sharpened like shattered glass. James. What is going on? Before he could speak, a tall, silver-haired man rose from the front row, Richard Anderson Sr., founder of Anderson Industries. His voice cut clean through the stunned silence. Son, he said darkly, tell me this isn't the same Emma. The same Emma? My blood ran cold. What does he mean, the same Emma? James straightened. And for the first time I saw not the polished CEO groom, but the Jamie I once knew. Yes, father, he said clearly. This is Emma Chin. The woman you paid $5 million to disappear. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones came out. Chairs scraped. Victoria's wedding teetered on the edge of collapse. I stood slowly, my heart pounding. $5 million? You paid me to disappear? Richard didn't flinch. I paid your mother. She assured me you wouldn't contact James again. Said it was for the best. My mouth went dry. My mother. Of course. The sudden insistence I transfer schools. The strange windfall in my college account. Her constant refrain that James, wasn't someone for girls like me. I turned toward her. You knew. All this time, you knew. She looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. It was for your own good, she said, smoothing her designer dress. He needed someone who belonged in his world. Someone like Victoria. James let out a bitter laugh. Perfect for the company image, you mean? Just like the socialite you tried to set me up with after Emma was gone. Tell me, father, did you tell Victoria about that too? Victoria turned to Richard, horror blooming in her eyes. Wait. You were behind that? Darling, my mother said to her, frantic now. Stay calm. But Victoria wasn't calming down. James, this is absurd. You're seriously comparing me to her? She gestured toward me. Look at her dress, it's not even designer. No, James said, voice low. It's handmade. Emma always said the most valuable things are made with love, not money. His gaze found mine. You still make your own clothes? I nodded, barely able to speak. She remembered, he murmured. Richard Anderson Sr. stepped forward, his voice thunderous. This ends now. James, you have responsibilities. This merger with Victoria's family. James cut him off, voice icy. So that's what this wedding is really about? A business transaction? Victoria blinked. What merger? James turned to her. Your father's company is on the brink. This marriage would save it. That's why you were pushed toward me, wasn't it? From the front row, her father stood. Now see here. But James was already reaching into his tuxedo jacket. He pulled out a USB drive and held it up. I found some files, father. Emails. Transfers. Legal documents from 15 years ago. And something else, about why you really needed Emma gone. He turned to the crowd. She wasn't just my girlfriend. Emma was a volunteer at a youth center in South Boston, one slated to be demolished for a new Anderson development. That project would have displaced hundreds of families. The memory hit like a punch. The protests. The flyers. The late nights planning community meetings. Jamie had stood by me, back then. She was organizing them, James continued. She was gaining traction. The media started paying attention. If the project failed, the company would lose millions. But worse, it would show Anderson Industries could be beaten. He looked straight at his father. That's why you had to make her disappear. Isn't it? Richard Anderson Sr. sank into his chair, face gray. James's voice dropped, razor sharp. You bribed her mother. Covered up our relationship. Scrubbed her from my life. He turned to me, and his voice softened. But you never disappeared, did you? I shook my head, still reeling. I never stopped remembering. I never imagined my sister's wedding would be the day everything unraveled. Looking back, the warning signs were there, from the moment my invitation arrived just 3 days before the ceremony. It was embossed in elegant gold lettering, but the message was unmistakably cruel, kitchen staff entrance only, with a hand-drawn arrow scrawled toward the back of the venue. Victoria had always been the shining star. While I dedicated my life to teaching children in underserved communities, she scaled the corporate ladder in Louboutins. Our parents never hesitated to point out the gap between us. Why can't you be more like your sister? Mom would sigh, eyeing my thrifted clothes and worn flats. She's marrying James Anderson, for heaven's sake. And what do you have? What they never saw was the value in the life I built, the joy of a breakthrough moment with a struggling student, the quiet pride of independence. My apartment wasn't grand, but it was mine. My impact wasn't flashy, but it was real. Still, I showed up. Because despite everything, she was still my sister. I slipped into my favorite dress, modest, but graceful, and drove my old Civic to the Grand Plaza Hotel. The security guard didn't bother with a smile. He glanced at my invitation, then jerked his thumb behind him. Service entrances around back. Inside, the kitchen buzzed with activity as chefs and servers prepared a lavish feast. A hostess led me through the chaos to a table hidden behind a massive pillar, removed from the other guests. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "Your sister was specific. She asked that certain family members be seated discreetly." My fingers trembled as I sat down. My table was set with disposable cutlery. Across the room, crystal stemware sparkled under the chandeliers. And there, beside my plastic fork, lay a note in Victoria's delicate handwriting. "Know your place, little sister. Don't ruin this for me." I should have walked away. I almost did. But something rooted me to that chair, maybe the same quiet resolve that led me to teach when everyone expected me to chase power and prestige. The ceremony itself was stunning. Victoria looked ethereal as she glided down the aisle in a gown that likely cost more than my annual income. James stood waiting, handsome, poised, every inch the magazine cover groom. But as she approached, something flickered in his expression. Unease. Then he saw me. His eyes locked on mine. And in that instant, James Anderson, CEO, icon, groom, did something no one expected. He dropped the wedding ring. A crisp metallic ping echoed through the hall as the band struck marble and rolled straight to my feet. As I stooped to pick it up, memories crashed back. 15 years ago, I was a college sophomore brewing coffee in a Boston cafe. He was Jamie, just Jamie, an idealistic grad student who believed business could be a force for good. We shared 6 breathtaking months of dreams and late-night conversations. He wanted to change the world. I wanted to teach. We even imagined building something together, maybe a nonprofit, a school, a future. And then one day, he was gone. No word. No explanation. Just gone.